I've had experiences with the KTM 690 Super Motard, but I always wanted to try out a much lighter Motard style motorcycle. So what we did last year was we brought this MX450 Braaap motorcycle, which came configured as a trail bike, and then we converted it into a Motard. This video is about that conversion, how we set it up, and some of the range riding I've been recently doing on this particular bike. The bike that we've got here was originally supplied by Braaap as a motocross / enduro style motorcycle. It's fully registered. So what we did was we set this up and converted it utilising parts that are available from Braaap. So check this out. So what I did to convert this bike into a Motard was, first of all, we got a set of Motard wheels, which is an optional extra that you can get from Braaap. And the cool part about that option is it comes with all the parts. You've got a full set of rims, front and rear. They come with brake discs. The rear comes with a sprocket, so it needs to be geared down to suit the smaller wheel size versus the enduro motocross type rear wheel that comes on the bike. You get a change in the front end, a little bracket which allows you to adapt the front brake slave cylinder to the disc, which is a little bit different as well. And it was really cool because it's just simply a bolt-on option that works perfectly. We didn't have to buy anything extra. The second thing I did was I rejetted the carburetor. It was running a little bit lean and it had a bit of a flat spot off idle. So we went up a size or one size in the jet and then up one size in the needle. And it took away or made that throttle response much smoother. I took the baffle out of the exhaust, so I've experimented with it both in and out, and I just took it out and I quite enjoy the ride with it out. And we also opened up the air box by drilling a number of holes, and it just helped with airflow, I believe. The final thing I did was I changed the front brake pads. The brake pads that came with it are probably a fairly cheap option, that are put together by the manufacturers in China. So what we did was we converted those brake pads into a much more aggressive, fully sintered pad, which seems to have made the front end braking much, much better. So how did the bike actually go when we took it for a range ride? As I said earlier, this is a registered motorcycle, so we could do this. The local range that we've got here is 263 corners of the most amazing 19 kilometres of bitumen that I've ridden in a long time. And this is how it went. The first thing you'll notice, or I noticed about the bike, is the top speed was not quite what I expected. I would have liked, another 10 kilometres an hour, 20 kilometres an hour or something in top gear. But, that would require an overdrive gear, which is probably not possible. So one way of overcoming that would be to increase the front sprocket by maybe one tooth, or go to the rear sprocket and put a smaller sprocket on, go down 2 or 3 teeth or something like that. And I think that would give you that little bit of top speed that you wanted, an extra 10 or so kilometres an hour. The second thing that I noticed is the seat's quite hard. It's fairly firm and it's got quite a square edge on it. So one of the things that I'm thinking about doing is taking a little bit out of that seat, just reshaping it a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable when you're riding. And it's only a little thing, but when you're kind of pushing a bike a little bit, comfort can be one of the distractions, or discomfort, I should say, can be a distraction. The one thing I will mention about the bike, and this doesn't relate to riding it, but it does relate to getting on and off the bike, and that is when you put the Motard wheels on the bike, it actually drops everything because you're going to 17-inch front and rear wheels, and previously I think it's got a 21 on the front and a 19 on the rear. So with a smaller diameter, the bike actually drops. The side stand itself was configured for the dirt bike, and what that means is as the bike drops, now it gets much more vertical on the side stand. So one of the things I'm going to do to this is I'm going to put a cut in it and turn it into an adjustable side stand that would be cater to the lower bike position when it's in a Motard configuration. And only a small thing, but I think that would be an improvement. first of all, I've just got to compliment Braaap on the manufacture of this particular bike, particularly the suspension. The suspension works wonderfully well for this particular bike. The front end grip is amazing, and I absolutely enjoyed the ride of this particular bike. It has a motocross style suspension, you know, with a fair bit of travel, but the suspension at the front end, you can actually release the air pressure build-up, which is pretty typical of a dirt bike. But as I said, suspension works really well, and it handles particularly well at the front end. The second thing is the bike's not overpowered. It's one of those bikes that you can really work it and push it hard and kind of be driving towards getting the most out of the motorcycle without getting in too much trouble. And I quite enjoy riding bikes like that. You know, you get on a 1000cc superbike, it's a whole different ball game. You know, there's some serious horsepower under you, so you're always managing carefully how you ride that thing. Whereas this thing, you can push it fairly hard without getting into trouble. The last thing is plenty of ground clearance. I haven't been able to touch anything. I think the foot pegs have been super close to the bitumen. I know my foot's touched slightly, but nothing else touches on this bike. I thought the side stand might actually be rubbing, but it's not the case. The clearance and the ground clearance, particularly at full, you know, big lean angles, is fantastic. I want to conclude by just telling you that this is the funnest bike I actually have in the garage. Anyone who knows me knows I've got a couple of BMWs, got a really high-end superbike that might be 8 or 10 times the price of this particular bike, but it's certainly not 8 or 10 times the fun. This is the funnest thing I've actually ridden. It handles brilliantly, it's super light, I don't worry about scratching it or anything like that, and I just have an absolute ball when I ride on it. So it is all smiles from me, and I can tell you I'll be doing quite a few more miles on the range on this particular bike. Nothing to do but now just watch a couple of snippets of footage from the fun that we've had on the ranges here, and so enjoy that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.